Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine for no reason? Or heard a whisper when you were all alone? Tonight, we're checking into the kind of place where those feelings are just the beginning. This is the story of Aarav, a travel blogger who thought he'd seen it all, until he spent one night in room 13. Aarav was on the road again, chasing stories for his blog. His car had broken down in the middle of nowhere, and the only sign of life was a rickety, old sign that read, "The Sleepy Hollow Inn." It looked like it hadn't seen a guest since the invention of color television, but with a storm brewing, he had no other choice. The lobby was a time capsule of dust and forgotten memories. An ancient-looking clerk, with eyes that seemed to hold 100 years of secrets, slid a tarnished brass key across the counter. The key was heavy, ornate, and engraved with the number 13. Just one night? The clerk rasped, a strange smile playing on his lips. Most folks don't even last that long. Aarav just laughed it off as a bad attempt at spooky salesmanship. If only he knew. The hallway to his room was long and dimly lit, with portraits on the wall whose eyes seemed to follow his every step. The air grew colder as he approached room 13. The door creaked open with a sound like a long, painful groan, revealing a room that was, well, old. A four-poster bed dominated the space, draped in heavy velvet curtains. A thick layer of dust covered everything, except for a small leather-bound diary sitting on the bedside table. Aarav, ever the adventurer, dropped his bags and picked up the diary. The first entry was dated almost a century ago, written in elegant, looping script. It belonged to a woman named Ilara. She wrote about her love for a man named Julian and their secret meetings at the inn. It seemed like a classic romance novel. Aarav smiled, thinking it would be a quaint little story to add to his blog. He decided to take a quick shower before settling in. The bathroom was just as old as the rest of the place. As the hot water steamed up the mirror, he could have sworn he saw a flicker of movement behind him. He spun around, but there was nothing there. Just his own reflection, looking a little more tired than usual. He shook his head. Long day. Overtired imagination. But when he stepped out of the shower and wiped the condensation from the mirror, his heart stopped. Scrawled across the glass in what looked like a child's handwriting were two words: "Get out." Aarav's blood ran cold. Was this a prank? He wiped the words away, his hand trembling slightly. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was old residue that only appeared with the steam. Yeah, that had to be it. He got dressed, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. Back in the main room, he noticed the diary was no longer on the bedside table. It was now lying open on the bed, turned to a new page. His logical mind was screaming, but the evidence was right there. He hadn't touched it. Slowly, he approached the bed and read the new entry. Ilara's handwriting was different now, shaky, frantic. She wrote about Julian becoming distant, cruel. She suspected he was seeing someone else. The entry ended abruptly. "He lied. He never loved me. He will pay." A cold draft swept through the room, extinguishing the single lamp on the table and plunging him into near total darkness, with only the moonlight filtering through the grimy window. That's when the sound started. A soft weeping seemed to come from the corner of the room. Aarav fumbled for his phone, turning on the flashlight. He scanned the room, the beam cutting through the darkness. Nothing. But the weeping continued, closer now, as if it was right beside the bed. He sat frozen, listening. The weeping slowly morphed into a faint, chilling lullaby. It was a tune he didn't recognize, but it filled him with an inexplicable sadness and terror. He pulled the covers up to his chin like a child, his heart hammering against his ribs. He tried to tell himself it was the wind, the old building settling, anything but what he feared it was. Suddenly, the rocking chair in the corner of the room started to move. Back and forth, with a slow, rhythmic creak that seemed to sync with his own frantic heartbeat. No one was in it. It was moving on its own. Aarav's breath hitched. This was not his imagination. This was real. He snatched his phone, his fingers fumbling as he tried to hit the record button. He had to get proof. As he aimed the camera at the chair, the lullaby stopped. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that was somehow worse than the noise. Then, a whisper, right in his ear. A woman's voice, laced with sorrow and venom. "He left me," Aarav yelled, scrambling off the bed and backing into the far wall, his phone clattering to the floor. The room temperature plummeted. He could see his own breath fogging in the air. The curtains around the bed began to sway violently, as if caught in a gale, even though the window was shut tight. He needed to get out. He lunged for the door, his hands desperately searching for the handle in the dark. He twisted it, locked. He rattled it, pulling with all his might, but it wouldn't budge. He was trapped. A gut-wrenching scream echoed through the room, but it wasn't his. It was a woman's shriek of pure agony and rage. The objects in the room began to shake. The lamp on the floor flickered on and off, casting strobe-like images of the chaos. In one flash, he saw a fleeting glimpse of a pale woman in a white dress standing by the bed, her face contorted in a silent scream. In the next flash, she was gone. He grabbed the diary from the floor, hoping for an answer, a clue, anything. He flipped to the last page. The writing was barely legible, a chaotic scrawl. It described how Aarav, heartbroken and betrayed, had taken her own life in this very room, vowing her spirit would never rest until she found her justice. The last sentence read, "No man will ever leave this room again." As he read those words, the wardrobe door burst open. Standing inside wasn't a ghostly figure, but the clerk from the front desk. His eyes, however, were milky white, and his body moved with a jerky, unnatural motion. He was holding an old, rusty knife. "She doesn't like visitors," the clerk said, but the voice wasn't his. It was a discordant mix of his own gravelly tone and the high-pitched whisper of Aarav. "Julian looked a lot like you." Aarav was paralyzed with fear. The possessed clerk took a step forward, the knife raised. This was it. This was how it ended. But in that moment of pure terror, a survival instinct he didn't know he had kicked in. He threw the heavy diary straight at the clerk's head. The book hit its mark with a sickening thud. The clerk staggered back, a flicker of confusion in his white eyes. That was the opening Aarav needed. He bolted past the stunned figure, grabbed the rocking chair, and hurled it at the window. Glass shattered everywhere. The storm outside raged, but the fresh, rain-soaked air that rushed in felt like the sweetest breath he'd ever taken. He didn't hesitate. He climbed through the broken window, cutting his hands on the jagged edges of glass, and dropped one story to the muddy ground below. He didn't look back. He just ran. He ran through the mud and the driving rain, away from the inn, away from the malevolent spirit of Aarav and the haunted secrets of Room 13. He didn't stop until the first light of dawn broke the horizon and he stumbled onto a main road, flagging down the first car he saw. Aarav never wrote about the Sleepy Hollow Inn on his blog. He couldn't. How could he explain what happened? Some stories are too terrifying to tell, and some places are better left forgotten. He quit travel blogging and now works a quiet office job. But every night, when he closes his eyes, he can still hear the creak of a rocking chair and a heartbroken whisper vowing revenge. So if you ever find yourself on a lonely road with a storm on your tail, and you see a sign for an old, forgotten inn, just keep driving. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Thanks for listening to this terrifying tale.